All right, welcome back. Vendetta Sports Media's NBA previews. We're going to be talking about Jarrod's favorite team, who I didn't know was his favorite team for about a year and a half, the Utah Jazz. Jarrod, what's going on? How are you?
Doing all right, mate. Doing all right. We're out of winter down here now. It's starting to fine up. Sunny days down in the southern half of Australia, so we're not stuck inside watching the rain pelt down and flood everything, which is a lovely thing. And yes, my favourite team. Oh my goodness, what an off season for Utah.
Yeah, I don't know how you describe the weather in Utah, but it may be clear clouds or rainy clouds, depending on how you want to describe it. They were quite busy.
Well, I know that about a month ago they had a typhoon go through the place. Mate, it cleaned up everything. I mean, you look at last season and you could tell something wasn't right. I mean, they won the division and 49 wins. It was the lowest win total of every division. And that left them with the fifth seed. And of course, they quite famously fell flat in their face again in the playoffs, this time to Luka and the Mavericks. But, it was still a really good veteran team with two stars in their prime. This is a team that I think of it, talking of the Mavericks, I looked at this side as something wasn't right, but at the same time, something wasn't right with Dallas before 2011 either. Sometimes you just need a golden run. So whilst I'm not surprised that Utah did what they did, at the same time, there's a part of me that thinks maybe take it one more year. I don't know. And looking at the transactions they had, I mean, maybe this was the time to do it because, by God, they've gotten every asset under the sun.
Yeah.
I've literally got this written down because I won't remember them all. I mean, this is how you do a teardown, Trey. This is the
Absolutely.
way. This is the way to napalm the crap out of your franchise if you want to rebuild it. But
it's why I've always defended Danny Ainge.
Well, I'll tell you what, you love him or hate him, he doesn't do it by halves, does he?
No.
He's in for a penny, in for a pound. Good old Danny.
Yeah.
But this is just the names who were brought in. This isn't the draft picks. Forget the draft picks. These are just the names. Malik Beasley, Jarred Vanderbilt, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Stanley Johnson, Colin Sexton, Larry Markkinen, Achai Agbaji, Kelly Olynyk, Saban Lee, Paris Bass, Simone Fontecchio, and somebody who I'm sure is a made-up name, Johnny Juzang.
No, he went to UCLA. I remember him.
Oh, I don't. But looking at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's 15. They've imported a roster. They've imported a full roster. Like that is insane.
I guess we can go over the individual trades to make it a little bit more interesting. Rudy Gobert, you want to talk about every asset under the sun. I physically don't know if they could have gotten more for Rudy Gobert.
That trade has reshaped the trade market for the foreseeable future.
It's why Durant didn't get moved, basically.
Exactly. It's why Durant didn't get moved. It's why Donovan Mitchell is not a Knick. The Spurs must be sitting there going, geez, if we just held back for another 2 or 3 weeks, imagine what we could have gotten from Murray. Not that he's as good as Gobert, but you're thinking, well, if this is the market.
Even the Spurs, you want to talk about the Kawhi Leonard trade. I mean, compared to the return that they got.
Yeah. Just insane. I mean, they've already flipped Pat Beverly for THT and Johnson. I mean, Stanley Johnson, whatever. But THT may or may not be a long-term NBA player, but at least they're going to give him the minutes now. That was the oh my God moment of the off season. Clearly the biggest and most surprising moment of the off season. Then you turn to the Mitchell trade, which
I was going to ask you that question actually. With the Mitchell trade, would you have preferred the Knicks package with RJ Barrett, even if it wasn't in as much draft capital? It's tough.
I think I would have, and that's only because of the logjam that the Cleveland trade created. When you consider you've already traded for Malik Beasley, a natural 2 guard, And in the Cleveland trade, you get Colin Sexton, who they've extended, so you would expect that they'd be wanting to play him long term. And you get Agbaji. That's 3 shooting guards, all worthy of minutes. So all of a sudden, that really crowds the rotation. If Barrett was the player coming back, considering he is already, a burgeoning star, you know what you're going to get with him. Even if he's not an all-star level player when it's all said and done, he's going to be a very good player. He's going to be one of those, top 30, top 35 NBA players for a long time. So I think I would have preferred that. But at the same time, that's purely because there's a known there. The extra pick means you get an extra stab at it. And Utah have got a good record of finding diamonds in the rough.
Fair enough. With the whole roster overturned, who would you say is maybe a key player for Utah this year?
Oh, the short answer is who the hell knows, really. Yeah, this is assuming that I assume that Conley and Clarkson will be moved. If not before opening night, then certainly by the deadline. I honestly think that there is a big chance both of them will be asked to stay home. With those two out of the way, I would assume it's going to be either Markkanen or Sexton. I'll say Sexton. I'll say Sexton over Markkanen, simply because 2 seasons ago when he was healthy, on a pretty average Cleveland team, as a 6'1" shooting guard, averaged 24 points with pretty good efficiency, with not a lot of help around him. He was really good that season. He was the shining light for that team. Now, does that translate to winning basketball? That's a completely different question, and I don't necessarily think it does. But winning basketball isn't Utah's goal this season. So, Sexton can fire away as much as he likes. How a Utah crowd takes to somebody who has sex in their name is a whole different thing. I'm not sure whether there's going to be a whole lot of Utah singlets with, it might be, .ton on the back of the Utah singlets that people buy out there. But at the same time, Markkanen is one to look for as well, because in Australia, we have this thing called Olympic Paddy, where Paddy Mills just turns into a stone cold killer as soon as he puts on green and gold. Like, he's a complimentary player in the NBA, but as soon as you put him in an Australian jersey, like he turns. Oh my God, he's something else. He turns into Prime Ginobili. It's amazing to watch him. But Markkanen, if you watched any of the European Championships at all, he was amazing for Finland. He was devastating.
I heard he was playing well.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was so good. Now, this is the first time that he is going to have a clear run as a mature player. He had a bit of a clear run as a youngster in Chicago. But this is the first time he's got a clear run to being a top 2 or even number 1 option. If he can replicate some of what he does for Finland, then Utah have got a serious player on their hands.
Absolutely. How about the X Factor here? And I wanted to ask you one in particular before you give your answer.
Oh, man. I don't even know. I mean, they've literally brought in 15 players, Trey.
Yeah.
Who the hell is the X Factor out of all of that? I mean,
well, I was going to say maybe Jarrod Vanderbilt. It does seem like the Jazz really like Jarrod Vanderbilt.
Well, they balked at what was probably a better offer from Phoenix, reportedly, admittedly, because they didn't want to include Vanderbilt in the deal. And I get it. Vanderbilt is one of those winning players. Like, I don't think he's the starting power forward on a really good team, but you play him off the bench as your 20-minute per game rebounding demon, like just this ball of energy. Every championship team needs one of those guys off the bench, a guy that just changes the pace, is prepared to barrel through people. And, it's the old phrase, do whatever it takes. But Vanderbilt strikes me as one of those types where it's all effort. So in that sense, I don't think he's an X factor, because I think he's going to be an important player, but you know what you're going to get from Jarrod Vanderbilt.
I just think sometime at the trade deadline, Danny Ainge knows if he really wants to move him, he can get the price that he wants.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. There's a potential first-round pick coming for him if he excels as the starting 4. But as far as an an X factor. I mean, you look at it from a rebuilding point of view in Utah, because realistically they're not competing for wins. So I would look at maybe Walker Kessler. Does that rim protection he provided in college translate or show signs of translating in the pros? Now, I mentioned Agbaji before. Now, he's a 22-year-old rookie. He should be ready to play. A 22-year-old lottery pick, you expect them to be able to step in and play, especially for a rebuilding side. But with Sexton there, with Beasley there, and there's a fair chance Beasley will be moved, where does that leave him? What breathing space does he get as a rookie? Where does he find
bad free throw numbers for Agbaji in college? Does that worry you?
Sorry?
Bad free throw numbers for Agbaji in college. Does that worry you?
I mean, look, when somebody is a good shooter but they miss their free throws, I tend to think it's mental.
Okay.
And that's my shooting coach opinion as well. That's me speaking as a coach more than a commentator on that one. So not necessarily. You're going to get better help in that regards as a pro than what you would as a collegiate player. So not necessarily. The X factor might be Taylor Horton-Tucker. The Twitter fanboys have talked about him as the second coming of Westbrook for years. And
the Lakers thought he was
similar at the moment is their jump shots. So he clearly is a phenomenal physical specimen, and he shows some really he throws some excellent passes, but he also throws some passes that are just atrocious. Like if he's shooting arrows, he'd be killing people in the crowd bad. So he's going to get a clear run here. Conley will be traded or told to go home. THT will be the point guard on starting night for Utah, is my opinion. So he will either sink or swim. If he can show that he can be at least a solid starting point guard, then Utah have got themselves an absolute bargain. I'm not necessarily on the THT bandwagon, I've got to admit, but he will at least get the chance to show without the pressure of playing alongside LeBron James, where every mistake is amplified. He's going to get the chance to show what he can do, to show whether there is a future for him.
And he's going to have the ball more in his hands because
precisely there's going to be no pressure, and he's going to have the ball. So if there is a time for him to show something legitimately, not just flashes, then this is going to be the season for it. So I'll probably lean on THT as the X factor.
All right, Jarrod, what's your prediction for the Jazz this year? Are they landing Wanyambama?
Well, I'll tell you what, if THT sucks, they might go for Scoot Henderson.
Okay.
They might, go for the lead guard. But yeah, I mean, Wembanyama, he could be generational. He's got to be your target. But that's beside the point. That's for draft time. That's for 10 months away. Look, assuming Conley and Clarkson are on the roster and play, then Utah could legitimately hit 30 wins here, despite the fact that there's not a hell of a lot else on that roster. They could even hit 35. But again, I don't expect them to play. So I would expect something, because remember, if Sexton's healthy, he's good. I think Markkanen could show something this year. Vanderbilt is a decent starting power forward. There'll be a lot of guys who will show something this year simply because they've got the breathing space to do so. You see it all the time with teams that tear down and then they're better than what people expect because people haven't had the chance to scout these guys big time because they used to be 10, 12, 15-minute a game players. So I think Utah will probably win mid-20s, which is more than what Danny Ainge will hope for. I think they'll win 24 games, if I had to put a number on it. Okay. That'll be more than Ainge will hope for. But at the same time, it's a new coach, it's a new roster. There'll be a lot of new things. I think most of those 24 wins will come, this year. And then in the back, from January onwards, I think Utah will plummet like a stone. I think they'll be found out quickly, and they'll go from like a 9th, 10th, 11th seed in the West, and they'll just drop to the bottom real fast.
All right, that's Jarrod Prosser giving you your Utah Jazz season preview. Myself, Trey Daubert. Make sure to subscribe on the Vendetta YouTube channel. and check out the website where all these videos can be found, vendettasportsmedia.com. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.